Hey, Matt made it just in time, and today is 12/12/12, the last time I believe any of us on this planet currently will experience such a date. And
Speak for yourself.
Years away.
it's a millennia between friends, right?
Yeah.
So this is the last Google TV Developers Hangout for this year. That's why I've gathered all of us together just to sort of talk a little bit about what's happened in the last little while, what's happened over the last year, believe it or not, quite a few things, and I guess to wrap it up with a little bit of Q&A from the community. I know we have some questions that we'll get to, and it looks like Matt's dropped off. Maybe he'll reconnect. Christian and I were at NDevCon last week, and what were your impressions?
I think it was good. We talked about Google TV. We gave an overview of developing for television in general. And I think a lot of the Android developers, they're already familiar with phones and tablets, and now they're just adding another big screen to their target audience.
Everybody wants the big screen.
The bigger the better.
Now, I'm actually surprised you didn't mention the thing that we cooked up.
Well, yeah, there is some reports on the internet that we did a little bit of a hardware teardown.
We did. That was actually quite a bit of fun, especially donning all the equipment and the testing. So for those of you who were not at NDevCon and would like to be in on this little thing we're talking about, Christian and I did a teardown of Google TV hardware. We covered pretty much everything that developers would care about: the CPU, the RAM, the GPU, the NAND memory a little bit, and then what we did was we put all those parts from that teardown into a Blendtec blender and kind of hit grind.
Supersonic blade.
That blender was amazing. So the guys at Blendtec were great, and they sent us 3 of these blenders. I think we only destroyed 1.5 of them in our testing, but it was pretty good. Especially, all right. So the buildup was this: we've got all these people in this room, and we're talking about this hardware teardown, and we finished with the description in the slides, and then I'm like, all right, I got 3 Google TVs. We got a room of maybe 160 people. Got to figure out how to fairly distribute them. So it's let's make a deal time, and it was who had the biggest hard drive, who had lint in their pocket, that sort of thing. We give away 3 Google TVs, and at this point, everyone's like, "Yay, Google TV!" And then the second question came, and the second question was, "All right, those of you who received Google TVs, who wants to give it up?" And
well, we put all the nice little hardware things in a little Christmas box,
we had
and then we added
yeah,
jelly beans to it and all kinds of other stuff.
all the things people were asking for, and one person took the bait. So yeah, they kind of ended up on stage with us wearing some protective gear as I took their Google TV away, and we proceeded to grind up the portions of the Google TV we had dissected earlier, and yeah, the crowd kind of got into that. That was pretty good.
We blended up all the requirements that we hear about.
Yeah, we just gave the community what it was asking for, as we will continue to do in the new year, etc. I had a lot of fun doing it.
Which Google TV did you? Was it any particular vendor you'd like to mention? Or not?
Nothing to announce at this time. But, they're all good. They all fit into a specific spectrum. We were talking about Google TVs sort of in the general sense. So the hardware we covered was specific to Vizio, but what we ended up grinding up was kind of a mixture of various electronic components from various models of Google TVs. We had to be fair. Right. I think the conclusion we reached was it does not blend.
Well, we probably didn't blend it long enough.
We need more practice at this.
Yeah,
I think we'll be doing something like this again in the future.
Maybe at I/O.
Yeah, well, at I/O, we got to have the industrial grinder, and we got to put a whole LG TV in there or something. I don't know. Maybe we'll just say, bring your hardware, we'll grind it.
But okay, yeah.
So NDevCon was pretty good. Met a lot of speakers who I hadn't met before because I guess I'm kind of new to the circuit, and I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think I mean, it was really a lot of, I want to say, quality Android developers. It was a lot of people who have written apps, who have published apps. It's a fun crowd.
So if you weren't there this year, there's another one, I believe, in the spring? Oh, there's one in Boston,
spring,
isn't there?
Yeah, the Boston Spring. But there's also the slides are available, so people can just go to the website, check it out.
Some of them may not make sense without us speaking, though. Come to one of our other presentations. Matt, since I have you on the line, maybe you can talk a little bit about the exclusive European programming that was announced recently. He's blinking. He's on the spot. He doesn't know what to say, or he's muted.
He's trying to find his notes.
I can't hear you, Matt. I think you might be muted. Les, can you hear him?
I do not hear him. He's going to controllers, so he's in a studio somewhere.
Yes.
So how about now?
Now we can hear you.
Well, that's right. Are you guys in the studio, or are you in 1808?
No, I'm in a ad hoc little space at the moment. We're getting a studio built in this building, but it's not there yet.
So to answer Les's question, we're in 1808. I cleaned up the room a little bit today. I put a nice tablecloth down. Felt we should, be more professional in our presentation.
And next week we ironed the tablecloth.
Excellent. So what happened this year?
Well, actually, before we get to what happened this year...
Oh, right, Matt was going to talk.
Yeah, Matt was going to talk about the European programming.
And I'm going to mute Stolen.
So what do you want to know about the European programming?
Well, for those of us who are not in Europe, perhaps you could fill us in.
So I've been running around for the past 6 months since I joined, kind of prepping all the developer community for the Google TV launches in UK, France, Germany, and Netherlands, and just kind of making them aware of the platforms and some of the do's and don'ts and what they can and can't do with Google TV. So yeah, it's been exciting times over this. I'm just getting all the developers interested and hyped up and starting to see some of the great things that they've been producing.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's it? Nothing else to add? No.
Would you like to talk about any launched apps or launched new content?
Well, at the moment I'm still working with a load of partners, and a load of developers have started sending through loads of really cool things. But a lot of them are still trying to do it in a much larger picture, so they're trying to do it with a whole sweep of Android applications as well as Google TV. And obviously with all the Nexus 7 and 10, etc., I think they're all they want to do that big launch. They want to be able to hit all of these devices. So I'm seeing a lot of stuff come through and a lot of interconnected stuff, but none of them are launched yet, so still waiting for it. But it's going to happen. It's going to be great. But yeah, I've been going to all the Droidcon events as well as a load of Android user group events. The communities are just incredible. They're so welcoming, and there's just so much kind of enthusiasm for all of the Android platform. So yeah, Google TV, they're just absolutely loving the fact they've got another form factor, another way of reaching their audience, and an entirely new audience. So yeah, it's been awesome.
Cool. Les, do you want to talk about the V3 rollout?
Sure, but first I'm going to talk about today's event.
Okay.
Give a plug for on 12/12/12, Google for the 12th year running has announced Google Zeitgeist, and for the first time the Google Zeitgeist Android application launched today, and that's what I and another Googler have been working on all weekend, was getting that launched. And so I am plugging it, so get your Google Zeitgeist 2012 Android application fresh from market for your phone.
Cool. Congratulations. I remember, so I received an email from Les over the weekend. Can people help test this? And pulled it up on all my Android devices, and it was really stable, actually.
Yeah.
So good job.
It was amazing. Yeah, I didn't write it, but I put it through all our process, and we had to put it into, our process is insane. We were the fastest getting through the process that the Android team has seen. So
nice.
I got recruited Friday night.
Oh, wow. That explains the email Saturday morning.
Yes, exactly. So V3 has been, it's launched on the LG TV. It is giving advanced media APIs, quality of service, the dash codec, really good audio codecs, and you have the ability in Java to add your own codecs. So that if you've got a proprietary video or audio format, you can basically decode that on a Google TV now from Java.
And you don't need native code for that.
No, you don't.
No NDK required.
Code at all.
Actually, it's funny. I remember in university, let me just click on us so we're focused. I remember at university, I took this Fundamentals of Multimedia Programming. And this is back a little while ago, shall we say. And we had to write JPEG and MPEG encoders and decoders in Java. And I was shocked at how performant they were, even in comparison to the C code that we had been writing in one of the other courses. So, you know, that was on hardware that's much older and much slower than the Google TVs. So I expect everybody who's ever had an issue with a codec not being supported for their particular application, now you can go out there and write them.
Actually, you know, one plug. So as preparation for NDevCon, when we were talking about all the hardware, I wanted to see what that hardware really can do. And I dug into RenderScript and took a bunch of the samples, modified them, and ran them. And I was really impressed. I was doing some video effects, and I was doing some, like, basically I think I had 2,000 sprites on the screen moving around and didn't drop a frame. Mm-hmm. So pretty cool.
There's a lot of power behind that hardware.
Yeah.
Right, so there is nothing else that I have on the immediate news that we can talk about. So instead, let's jump into sort of a year in review. And, you know, those of you on the team, remember the email I sent out this morning? Somebody needs to mute, and it's Matt. There we go.
Actually, Stoyan's mic keeps coming on, and so if he'd stay mute until he asks a question, that'd be good.
So, I haven't been on the team very long, maybe, but I guess I'm getting close to 6 months now. Wow, 6 months!
Actually, it would be close to 6 months because you kind of started a couple weeks before the end of the quarter.
Yeah.
So it's actually is.
Sneaks up on you. I still feel like the new guy. I still act like the new guy.
You are.
Plus one.
Get away with more.
So, you know, when I was trying to figure out what we would cover in this last Hangout for the year, I thought it would be really good to just cover sort of a year in review, where we were this time last year and sort of where we are now and the evolution, because I think a lot of the times we're so focused on the stuff that we're doing or, you know, particular application that you lose the context of how much is actually going on and how much movement there is. So, you know, I know I solicited all of you for different things. Maybe we can just start off with, you know, you mentioned Android Market in your response. So
yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing to think that only a year ago we've actually launched the ability for third-party developers to distribute applications to Google TV. So at the time it was Android Market, now it's Google Play Store, but that's only a year ago. So for all the developers out there, it has been a really busy year developing apps for Google TV for the first time, getting their feet wet. I think, yeah, we've made a lot of progress. When I look in market now, there's a lot of really cool apps that have shown up over the last 12 months.
People are starting to figure it out.
We did we released a V2, then we released 2.1, 2.2, 2.11, 2.12, and we also released.
Well, there was a Honeycomb update in there as well.
Yeah, the Honeycomb update brought in Market effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we did a couple updates over the year to especially the old hardware, so the Intel-based Sony Blu-ray players, the Logitech device is still getting updates, and so we added Market. We actually initially we had a Google TV specific Market client, and now with the Google Play update, we have the official, like just the same binary that's on all the other devices. It is the Google Play Android store.
The full experience.
The full experience. Same as on the tablet. It's actually a tablet UI.
Yes. Unless you haven't done the overscan.
Yeah, there is a bug or two in there still.
There's always bugs, but we're working on it. It's always this constant driving to fix the problems that we create. And
I'm not sure that's the direction you want to be headed. But it looks like Crispy's disappeared.
Oh. We occasionally get this over the pond. They'll come back in a second. They'll be fine.
Yeah, or something change. It says we're still on air, but usually when the moderator disappears, we go off. But hopefully somebody will ping us with some information.
So, Les, what was your main thing for Google TV over the past year?
We're still here.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, cool.
I don't know what happened. Somebody pulled something out of something.
Well, it still has you connected and a good still shot down at the bottom.
Okay. Well, we're back now. So I guess we launched some ARM hardware this year as well, and some new devices.
Yeah. Do we know we're still being recorded is the question.
It says at the top of mine that the broadcast is still going and that we have a bunch of viewers. Quite a few viewers.
Okay, so you're seeing moderator information. That's what I asked. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Okay, so we're still going then.
Yeah, we're still going. Sorry about that blip, people. So yes, new hardware. This was kind of the big exciting thing because
and I mean we talked about it almost a year ago at CES in Las Vegas. We for the first time talked about new devices with Marvell chipset, going to an ARM CPU, and at the time we talked about LG and I don't know who else we announced, but throughout the year we basically rolled out the LG TV with the Google TV built in, which I think is a really great experience. There is no extra set-top box needed. It's right on the TV. And then we have, of course, the Sony device. They did a refresh with an ARM base with Marvell. We have the Vizio devices, and we're still going. We were adding hardware to the mix.
And according to iFixit.com, the Vizio device is very fixable.
It doesn't really blend though. But
does not blend at all.
The heatsink is quite massive.
Well, like we didn't even try. Just as a little side note here, we didn't even try to blend the heatsink on the Vizio.
Yeah.
But like the screws and the bolts on the motherboard, once they get bouncing around at something like 1700 RPM or something like that, those blades were really going fast. It was the hum. They were dinging around inside of this blending container and sparking. And I think,
should have made a video of our.
So you made soup, then it warmed itself up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we made metal soup. But I mean, even the circuit boards were just like they were chewing, but they went in square. They came out kind of like cookie shaped because they were just bouncing around and rotating. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to digress that much, but yeah, the Vizios are fun to take apart. Sean, you would put a bunch of stuff on the historical list. You're like the custodian of our history.
Well, I looked through our Google TV blog post.
So, I don't know, maybe you want to talk to some of the points that you had on there.
Well, I mean, I'd like to sort of add up to Christian's point that it's the year where we had a lot of Android apps. Before going into that, we had the Google TV Spotlight, where we had about 60, 70, 80 apps. And throughout the year, a lot of the developers actually converted some of the web apps into Android apps. Thank you very much for that effort. And now I think more than half of the old web apps have already been converted into Android apps. So that's a great accomplishment for the year. Thanks a lot for the great work. We also launched Google TV on Google Plus. We launched the Google TV page and also Google TV develops page. And the Google TV page, we've got like 350,000 followers. And the Google TV develop page, we've got like almost 12,000 followers. So, thanks a lot for participating in the community. A lot of the things I think you guys already mentioned. I think there's also the Gundam style LG U Plus launch in Korea.
Yes.
That was a lot of fun.
Oh, and that's just going amazing.
Well, it's a full IP TV, right?
Yeah, and it's the U Plus is the cable company, and they're just installing it everywhere.
And people have got the option to upgrade for a small fee, but it sounds like everyone who's on that service is jumping over the chance of getting this Google TV box. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Makes me really wish we had fiber in California.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
As I'm sure many of you who are watching this now will agree.
It'd be great if we could find a company that would provide fiber.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do a road trip just to Kansas next year, and we should film it, you know.
Actually, what we should do is we should go do a code lab. We should find out if Kansas City has a Android developers group.
Awesome.
Actually, if there's any Android developers
in Kansas City,
you
should be joining us.
So that can bring up what I've spent a lot of my time on this last year. We started out doing some code labs. Realized it can be quite a challenge to set up a ton of monitors in a room to allow people to actually do an interactive code lab. And especially as we started seeing, I think, more interest over the year, more people wanted to show up to our events. So we transitioned to what we call the Google TV Test Lab and have gotten some pretty good response. We've done it in Washington, D.C. We did one in Boulder. And we're planning out what we're going to do for next year. So if the developers out there want us to come to them, the way that these work really well is we get your help. You help us set them up with meetups and Google developer groups, Android developer groups, whomever. But it's been really good because these test labs, we bring TVs in and we sideload your apps on there. We try them out, and you get to see how they can perform on all the different devices. We have a Sony, the LG, and the Vizio devices all there lined up, ready to go and try them out. So. And
pretty soon we'll have the Hisense and
Hisense is coming. And so.
The others haven't announced yet.
Right.
Nothing to announce at this time.
Yeah.
Go use your favorite search engine. I think something's out there.
Yeah, but yeah.
I'm not saying anything.
I just want to make sure.
There was something else. Oh yeah, you were mentioning. So I think you did the smart thing because Sean and I went to Seattle this year, and I organized 30 monitors and Google TVs, and there was a lot of shipping of stuff going on, and it was a lot of work. So.
But there are times when you still need them, and
absolutely.
We are doing hackathons. So
there's one coming up actually.
Well, we've done 3. We've done 2 this year, and we're getting ready to do our 3rd. The first one we did in April. We had 200 developers here in Mountain, which was great. We did the London hackathon in July. We had about 50 to 60 developers show up for that one, and we're doing a hackathon in LA on January 26th and 27th. And if you were interested in going to that, boy, I don't remember. I think it's YouTube Hack LA or something like that. YTLAhack.com, something like that.
If you can't find it, you're interested in going, send me an email.
Yep, look it up. We're looking for developers to show up there, and it's a hackathon for the weekend. We're really excited about that one because it's in LA. It's you got content people there, people who have things that they want to get distributed to people. It's an opportunity for you to build an app to get their stuff out there.
It's already pretty full, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, we're doing pretty well. We're probably 70% full right now.
Okay, so
we only had a way to show YouTube content on Google TV.
if
Wow.
only, huh? It's funny you should mention that.
It's funny. Wait till.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
But,
not yet.
we were already talking about this a little bit at NDevCon, so it's kind of already out there.
Oh, well, I've talked about it on these things too. I was just going to wait because the official announcement might happen real shortly.
That's true. So, read between the lines.
Well, that said, as long as we're going to plug events, Yarek from the YouTube team and I are doing an 8-hour workshop at South by Southwest called the Saving the Couch Potatoes, the Cloudy Future of Television.
That should be
And
pretty
we're
exciting.
going to take you through the process of filming content, putting it on, creating a content delivery network, and creating apps to highlight that content and display it and monetize and analytics. So that should be a great event, and it's at South by Southwest Interactive.
Cool. I wish I could announce something, but there's nothing to announce.
At this time?
At this time, yeah. Anyway, that's pretty exciting actually about South by Southwest. Hopefully some of you have the chance to go to that because I think that is one of the most requested things with at least Google TV. I want more control over video and getting it out there. What else do we want to talk about? We've talked about Korea. We've talked about kind of V3 and the voice search and functionality that goes along with that. Our rebrand of TV and movies to primetime. So if you hear primetime as a developer, we're referring to what was TV and movies. Apps on Google Play we've talked about. Pandora. Oh, actually, maybe you want to talk about just who's launched this year.
Oh, it was a busy year. So
Wow,
all the usual suspects that were preloaded originally are in market. So Pandora, they are always a very popular application. People love listening to music and watching TV on their TV, naturally. Some of the other apps that are in that area is Avia Media Player and then Plex Media Player, also GTV Box. So those are all apps that allow you to control media servers in your home. You can stream videos from your media server to your TV. And then, of course, there is a lot of media games. So there are media applications like Redux, Drama Fever, Snack Films, Viki, Post TV. So what we see is most of the really interesting and successful applications revolve around bringing some sort of another video or media to the television. So a lot of people who already have video on-demand services have created Google TV apps. And then we have games. So Greedy Spiders is one that we featured recently. We're always reviewing for our staff picks, and there's a few more games. So we have Cannabalt was another nice one. Very easy to use on a remote control. All you need is left, right, up, down. The biggest problem with games, other than the NDK one, is usually the input device. So it's the question is, how do you effectively control the game without a touchpad or without a touch screen?
Well, I remember days of video games when you had a controller with a wire connected to your console. You can use USB host mode and build to...
Well, the OnLive folks created their own controller.
That's right.
And they've got quite an amazing set of Google TV devices.
Yeah, I think the launch of OnLive was really kind of interesting. It brought suddenly a lot of console titles and
well, you have access to a
games.
great library set that they have. But, I mean, I want to see more, quote-unquote, I don't want to use the word native, but I'm kind of forced to. I want to see more Android applications that are game specific, Google TV specific, and use maybe a secondary input device. I think that would go a long way. And I see Jason has joined the Hangout. And Jason, do you want to give us an update on your game, or is it too premature for that? I can't hear him if he's talking.
I muted him.
Yeah, now we can.
There we go.
All right, there's a lot of background noise here because everybody's on lunch right now. But yeah, my game is still kind of premature, but I've been testing. I'm trying to do a top-down vertical shooter that's optimized for Google TV. Oh, somebody's knocking on the door. And hopefully I can get some preview screens out and maybe a stage, kind of a demo, within the next couple of weeks, because I'm not that far off from actually having a soft demo, but I'm trying to make it as polished as possible.
What are you using for your input device?
Input right now is configured for remotes, so I have the original Blu-ray Google TV remote and the new black Sony Google TV box. And I've been wanting to work with Animote as a joystick control, so I've been trying to work with that a little bit more in depth when I get a little bit more time. But definitely OpenGL ES 2.0 is the way to go. I've actually ran a couple of samples with Canvas, which is just kind of just a blueprint of how the game mechanics are going to work, and then I can actually shift that over to more production for OpenGL ES. So
Christian was talking about Canvas in one of our talks, weren't you? About OpenGL and the performance?
So, I mean, you can go all the way down to the nuts and bolts of just OpenGL and using the OpenGL ES2 APIs. Or you can just use the Android Canvas draw, and there's a bunch of vertex draw operations that work relatively well, but that's more for 2D kind of scenarios. And when you do that, make sure you turn on the hardware acceleration in the manifest or per view or whatever. Cool.
So, Crispy, this might interest you because I know you're really hardcore into your games. Have you seen Arduino have released a game controller PCB board?
Oh, hells yes.
I thought you would.
Adafruit, which is a hardware site online that I love the stuff they do with Hangouts. Yeah, I saw that board, and I've actually ordered 3. So I only have 2 hands, so I don't know what I'm going to do with a third one, but I've got some plans for it. It's got a microphone on it, it's got accelerometer, it's got a potentiometer slider at the bottom. Yeah, it's got the analog on one side, and you've got like 4 buttons on the other. It's great. It's just I'm gonna have to build a case for it first. So 3D printer, here I come.
Just because we got a storage room doesn't mean we need more hardware.
Yeah, well, I think there's actually a lot of hardware that I've ordered that's starting to arrive now as we play with. But I don't know. I love. I mean, you're into this too, Paul. It's like finding ways to interface with hardware and do cool things again with Android and controlling other things.
Like a pour beer.
That's right, Keg Droid. Which I want keg coffee at my desk.
We have our second Keg Droid is online this evening, 3 o'clock. We're going to start drinking off of it here. So, tool from up and running.
Robotic beer.
With enough coffee, you could probably melt one of those.
Does it blend? Actually, that would
there
be
are
awesome.
days I would love to see if it would blend. Yes.
That's what we do after work.
Yeah. Actually, that would be the Margarita Droid.
There you go.
Next, yes.
Put it actually, that'd be cool.
Maybe that's what you want to do with the Google TV is like recipes and controlling the BlendTech blender because it's got firmware. I don't know.
So we have a whole bunch of folks here. Maybe we ought to take some questions.
Yes, I was actually just trying to transition us over there, but we got wrapped up in hardware and beer and all that stuff we all care about. So yeah, let's. I'm gonna just pull up the Dory here and ask or talk to the questions.
Also, if you've got a live question, you're welcome to type it into the chat window for anybody who's a member of the group, and I will take a peek at the various things going on.
Stoyan is straight in there.
All right. So let me just scroll down to the Dory. All right. So, Sean, you can answer this one live. This is the question is: we have submitted a website that is a Google TV optimized site, and it's been approved. It's visible on the website gallery, but it's not visible on Spotlight. So they wanted to know when they'd be visible on Spotlight. Yes, we answered it here, but for the benefit of our viewers, why don't you...
there are two things. One is called a Google TV Gallery, and there's another thing called a Google TV Spotlight. Gallery is for developers to submit your applications online, where we do a quick review, and if it's good enough, we kind of approve it, and then you're right there live on Google TV Gallery. But that doesn't guarantee that it's going to be in the Google TV Spotlight. For Spotlight apps, we have a little bit more process involved. So you have to do it like implement a deep app navigation. You have to get the UIs correctly, and then we do a team review. At that point, we kind of work with you guys one-on-one and get everything assets ready, and then publish it.
Okay, I asked this question that Sean answered.
Yes.
Yes.
Your app is the one
I wrote you today because you answered me yesterday with an email that you want to do some stuff, some things, that we should have more categories for the homepage, and we should polish our design, and the deep path should be working. And today, me and my team have done some work, and we sent you an email, and I edited it in the gallery. So, what should we do next to be visible on Spotlight?
I saw your email. I had a look at your app. It looks pretty good. So, I'll get back to you in email.
So it's good, okay?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, and I should, or our team should wait for you or something.
Yes.
Yes, and we should be approved for the Spotlight.
Yes, I'll get back to you in email and asking you for more info and get assets, things like that in place, and also you guys need to sign some documents.
Okay, no problem. One more question: is there any restriction for adult content?
Yes, we don't allow that. Not adult contents.
Well, we don't allow that to show up in Play, and there's rules around Spotlight too. So nothing. Yeah.
That said, there are at least 2 companies that have Google TV optimized adult content. One an Android app, and one an Android app, and one a website that's optimized for Google TV, and so don't let that we won't promote it stop you if you have other ways to promote it.
Yeah. Very delicate way of putting it. All right. So I'm going to jump to the next Dory question, and hopefully someone can fill me in on this. I know very little about selling and market, but for try and buy, this person was not, this is Tom in Orange County, not exactly clear what content I need to have in my app for the subscription. Could you explain this? I'd asked for some clarification, and Matt had added a bit of info in here. So maybe we could just take a second and talk about try and buy. Maybe Matt, if you want to pipe in here.
So my interpretation of this question is, with the subscription side of stuff, you can essentially say, I'm going to give you a period where you don't have to pay me anything, and you can have the app and the content for X amount of time, after which you agree that you'll either cancel the subscription or then actually start paying me the regular fee. So that was kind of my understanding of it. The way the question is kind of phrased is to say, like, if I want to partake in this idea of having a free period, what content do I need to have? It seems like they're kind of looking at it the wrong way. The way it's designed is if you have regular content that you think people will buy for a subscription rate, then the free period, the purpose of that is to just give them early access to that so they can sort of see what they're going to buy before they actually buy it, essentially. So realistically, if you're looking at a subscription model, then you should already have some regular content or some content they're going to want regular access to. and then all you're doing with the try and buy is literally just a set period of time where the Play Store won't charge them, and you can give them early access.
So I'm a magazine company, and I've got, say, magazines, or I've got videos or something that you would normally pay a monthly fee for. I'm like, you know what? Anybody who downloads or installs my app, they can have 30 days free access.
Exactly,
and then I'll start
right.
building.
So Matt, is there actually ways? I know, for example, we have support for things like in-app billing and for things like subscriptions in the Play Store. So if I want to implement something like a try and buy, is there actually easy ways to do that with our Play Store APIs, or do you need to add the trial period yourself and then manage the payments?
So there's another question in the Dory that's pretty much exactly this, which is kind of saying if I want to give people access for a set amount of time, then they buy it for a one-time fee. There's nothing in the Play Store that I'm aware of that allows you to sort of manage everything. Essentially, I think the way you do it is it would be a free app that they download, and the way I recommended it is you essentially sign up with some form of account details, and then that way your back-end server can say, right, this is the person who's using the app, this is the start period, track them for that period of time, and then do an in-app purchase at that point. And then from that point, you can basically say, okay, cool, I know what account you are, you've paid for the app, here you go, have access.
Actually, I have an idea. Can't you have a zero-cost item in Play that you've sort of forced them to buy a zero-cost item that gives them their first 30 days, and then they need to renew for cost? That way everything is stored in Play and they're not sharing their credentials with you?
So there's two ways of doing it. I mean, that would be a really nice way of doing it. The only question I'd have is whether you could find out when they purchased the first item to then validate how long they've had it for.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, cool.
Then the new Play Store APIs for V3, I think, would be where you'd want to look for all this.
Yeah, because I know that you can see what purchases they've made. It's just whether you get information like the actual date and time they purchased it. But yeah, if you can do that, then that would be a really nice way of doing it, because then obviously you don't have to maintain your back-end server. So yeah, that would be another alternative. So yeah, one way or another, you'd have to implement the payment free period and then in-app purchase after that. And we was kind of having a discussion that a lot of users are quite normally prefer taking that approach than just buying an app up front. It's got a much higher conversion rate. So yeah, it's not just handed to you on a plate, but yeah, I think Les's idea of the £0 kind of payment is quite a nice way of doing it, and that's exactly how the subscription one works.
I'm sure I said pound, yes.
Dollar, euro, what have you.
Yeah.
Yay, pesos!
Pesos!
All right, yeah, I actually took a look at the Android documentation for this, and it was the first time I had looked at it today. So it seemed pretty clear how to do, an end-to-end subscription, and I think there's some variable time rates on starting your billing, etc. So the best place to go, I think, is the Android documentation site, and just follow that.
Yep.
And they've got a really nice Android training resource for the in-app billing V3 stuff, which, yeah, if you're looking at doing this kind of stuff or you're already on V2, I strongly recommend looking at V3. It does simplify the entire process, and the training doc is really, really helpful. So, yeah, definitely worth a look at that.
Let's just clarify version numbers. We're talking about V3, not a Google TV
version. In-app billing version 3.
There you go.
Which is available on Google TV version 2.
Yes.
And 3.
Which is part of Android version 4.
No.
But it's retrograde. It goes back, I think, to what?
It's Android version 3.2.
Oh, okay. That's us?
Yeah.
That's us.
Okay. Lots of version numbers everywhere. All right, so is there a way to access content of a video container and pick and choose tracks for playback? This is Sebastian's question, and he says he's looking for something like Media Player Track Info, which was introduced in API 16. So this is where it gets a little tricky, because API 16 is not where Google TV's at. We're on API 13. So I actually asked some of the engineering team today about this. specifically Mark Linder, and he said I got to talk to the Korean team.
Okay.
So I couldn't find anything that would necessarily allow this. That doesn't mean it's not possible, but the truth of it is you're probably not going to have a good time trying to use this. So
I think a lot of developers have tried to do this on the Android side because video playback, if you want to do anything other than the smallest videos across all devices, is extremely hard to do, and you kind of want access to this kind of information to gauge whether you think a device can handle it or not, and there hasn't been a way of doing it. So yeah, unless we've added something in, it's not looking like it's going to, yeah.
Wait, Crispy, could you say what Sebastian's looking for again?
Yeah, just a sec. Oh, let's see. I couldn't understand fully the answer to my question. Is there a problem if we stream live TV with adult content? And if there is a problem, how could it be solved?
Okay, so yeah, that's for Stoyan's.
Oh, sorry,
I'll
I'm reading the wrong stream.
question in a moment, but
all right. Back to Sebastian's question. Sorry.
The API was the mediaplayer.trackinfo.
Yes. He was looking for something like that for Google TV. As far as I know, you can only get information, like limited information on the audio stream, not the video tracks, because that goes through the trusted video path. I don't know.
Well, there might be some information you can get that's part of the new APIs in V3 that lets you get stuff, and there's also, of course, you could create a simulated codec, a critter that a codec that gets information for you, and then all it does is pass on to the regular the regular codecs.
So yeah, I mean, I could conceive of something where somebody might take the quality of service APIs and also wrap that into some sort of extreme video transcoder, I guess, or analyzer, if that's possible. I don't know. It seems like it might be kind of tricky to pull off.
I think the short answer is we're not API 16.
Yeah.
This API will not work. Doing it yourself is possible, but it's not easy.
Okay. All right. So for Stoyan's follow-up question, adult content can't be in your app that we are promoting for you. You could do another app that is separate. And I do understand that.
Well, let's put it in the simplest terms. Google will not promote any adult content applications.
Right. I will say that I did notice that iOS, whoever they are, is now selling adult content in Russia. But excuse me. So who knows? But we don't, at the moment, allow any adult content to be promoted by us.
And also, most of the OEMs, when they feature anything, they have pretty strict rule. Make sure filter all these out.
This was someone else. I was laughing because I was talking about adult content, and someone sent a URL to an MP4.
Yeah, and it's hash coded, so who knows what's in it. Probably not going to click on that while we're on air. But John, let's see if we can get you an answer here. Great way to troll, by the way. No, kidding. So John would like to know some info on the requirements for streaming video content on Android. He's got an example. It's an MP4. I assume it's H.264. He'd like to know, if possible, if there's a working sample project that can stream video content currently. So it's actually possible to stream this MP4, assuming the codecs match with a Google TV, with like 4 lines of code. So you could have a layout with a video view in it, and inside your main activity, you would capture the video view, and you would set the content URL to the MP4, and then you would call video view prepare, and then video view play, and your video will start playing. That's the simplest form to go.
I think in the last talk that we just gave at NDevCon, there was actually a slide.
Yeah, actually, I put the code in there.
There's also on code.google.com/p/Google TV-video-player has example of all that. Another in the API demos, there is stuff that shows how to do video. So there's plenty of content out there for you to go take a look at, John.
Les, you want to maybe paste the URL just to the sample site for John in the chat stream?
Oh, you mean typing it or doing it off the top of one's head is not enough?
I don't know. I always fail at writing things down myself, Butterfingers and all. But just, as a follow-on to this, John, you should be aware that it's usually better to stream the video than it is to do like a progressive download and playback. Just Google TVs have limited memory, and the hard drive space, if you can even call it the flash drive space on these things is also rather constrained. So my recommendation is if you want to do something like this, set up a streaming server. You should be able to use something like VLC and Handbrake, or there's a number of services online that can allow for CDN content streaming.
He's got a Flash Media server that he's using at the moment, so he's got all that. Though what you might want to look at, John, is encoding it multiple ways and converting it to an HLS, because that's a much better way of delivering content to your users.
And it can keep your costs down for bandwidth.
Yeah. I'm not sure, actually.
Well, it would optimize it, potentially.
Optimize it. It provides a better quality I'm not sure you're actually lowering your costs using it, because it's actually using the best quality, which it delivers the right quality to at the right time, which actually might increase your costs.
Really? Oh.
Yes.
Okay, I have it backwards then. Yeah, it's backwards in my head.
Yeah, it's maximizing your cost.
So HLS, you can read up on that at a large company whose icon is a fruit.
There is a document on. I'll post a document, John, to the stream.
All right. I'm going to just move us on to the next question. We're getting close to 2 o'clock, and I have a meeting I got to go to.
You scheduled it for 2 hours. I was so shocked.
I scheduled what for 2 hours?
The Hangout on my calendar.
Did I?
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we're going to be going for another hour, folks. No.
Should have brought some more food.
Should have brought some beer. That's what we need. Next time.
Next year.
Yes. On the newer generation Google TV devices, is the Drive API integrated with Android apps?
No.
Unfortunately not. If you'd like to try and figure that out, you're welcome to.
I mean, as far as I know, Drive API, it's basically just a web API. It's like just
it's RESTful.
Bunch of JSON calls and stuff. So you can do that from any platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd kind of be interested to know what you would want to use Drive for with Google TV. I mean, I can think of a few scenarios, but I'm just curious.
I think the main use case for it is if you can start syncing like application state across multiple devices. Drive seems to be a nice way that you can start doing that while also still giving the user like control of what you're syncing, if that makes sense. You're not using like a third-party server which they can't view or change or delete or have control of. So I think that's one of the main use cases for it that I've seen or heard developers kind of want.
I wonder if you could use it as a CDN. Although there's probably more cost-effective ways of doing that. I don't know. I'd be interested to see what was going to come of that. So we've covered, I believe, all the questions that were in the dory.
There was one more on the on the plus page.
On the plus page. All right. Let me.
Yeah, it's a good one by Damien on there. Well, there's 2 on there.
All right. Let's see. We have. There's too many sources of information for us to go on. Let's see. Is there a way to get notified when a TV is woken up from standby? That is, boot completed doesn't seem too useful since people rarely complete power down on a device. Will a scheduled event via Alarm Manager wake a device from standby to run? So I actually hear this one, I don't want to say too often, but people, I've heard a lot of requests about like getting notified when a TV's woken up or when it's shutting down, or being able to set a timer and get it to turn on the TV. And I think this is, what, HDMI CDC or something like that?
HDMI C or something. Yeah, there is basically a remote control
CEC, thanks,
protocol that's available over HDMI. We don't currently have any APIs for it.
Yeah, it's twitchy.
It's also a little bit vendor specific.
Right, and in fact, some of the vendors, notably Sony, have some HDMI CEC stuff that they do with it, so you might want to check their device. And they have a developer's website, developers.sony.com, that talks about their TVs. And I bet if you wrote Tony, Toni, there, he'd probably be able to help you.
All right, so David Carver asks, any plans for a way to contribute content to the Primetime app so it can aggregate local media for a local media server? An API would be ideal.
It would be.
The answer, not locally, there is not. If you've got content that you want to get discoverable, there is kind of a roundabout way, but it's got to be high-quality, long-form content. At the moment, you've got to go as far as having TMS IDs and all sorts of other stuff. So if you've never broadcast on television before, you probably don't have that, and it'd be a real pain to get it. So at the moment, there's really not an easy way to get your content into prime time. And there's nothing saying you can't do your own self-discovery and DLNA server stuff and that thing. I mean, there are a couple of apps that do that, but that's not going to get you into prime time.
Yeah, I think a more realistic approach would be to have a search provider that can provide searchable items to the quick search bar, to the QSB.
Oh yeah, that's not a bad idea.
The challenge with that, though, is that when the QSB, when you do that, you only get one search result that comes in. But
yeah, and users have to manually enable your
turn that on.
content.
Yeah.
So as with everything, this stuff will evolve over time. So I think it's just a matter of stay tuned, keep checking in. Nothing else to announce there. But
all right. So I think we've covered everybody's questions. We haven't actually gone through the list. Is there anybody who's in the Hangout who joined that has a question that didn't get one asked? Okay, cool.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Hopefully you'll tune back in as we start off the new year with some more Hangouts. So just to reiterate again, this is the last Hangout for 2012. You can reach us by email if you have questions pertaining to whatever you're doing with Google TV. And I hope you all have a good holiday and New Year.
I'm truly amazed. Thank you all.
All right.
Ciao.
Next year.
Have a good one. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Ending broadcast.